Happy Sunday! Unless you're a Man United fan. We won't get into that. Welcome back to the weekly Steelchair podcast, brought to you by the Weekly Armchair Sports Talk. Usually a Saturday, live on a Sunday, because this is a Sunday pay-per-view review show. And it feels right, because this show was actually, funnily enough, held on a Sunday. Before we even get into what really is important, obviously, shout out to our live chat regular viewer, Billy, who suggested today's show. One that I actually think was a great suggestion. I know my co-host was also full in agreement with that, although never watched it before. At least I got to watch it in this sense for pure.
If I wasn't at least 10 when it happened, I've usually not seen it. So thanks again for another suggestion of a show that I hadn't seen before. I obviously knew the general gist of things, but it's fun watching wrestling and you don't know the results. It's not like modern wrestling where you usually do.
Exactly, and it's one I had watched a little while. I mean, I did watch this one live when I was 5. Like I remember this one fondly, so I was well into my wrestling prime going through it. But of course, before we even dive into the logistics of the show, the most important question: how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm 22 now, so over the hill. But no, I'm doing all right. I'll be honest, I'm just hoping that we can cheer up regular viewers of the Weekly Armchair Sports Talk. I mean, they were getting their fill earlier on today. And they would have thought about folding up and going home. I promise I won't make puns the entire time, but it was a game, we'll say that. But we're here to talk about something more important, at least to myself, than the football, and that is, of course, the wrestling, the squared circle, the ropes, the turnbuckles, and the men and women inside that ring. And yes, Survivor Series 2002.
Very interesting one. Now, obviously, because there was a lot of good spots throughout this show. I've actually done it over 2 pages. That's how kind I'm being today. And obviously, I've also noted the full match card in order. We're going to disregard one of them because that was on the Sunday Night Heat show and it lasted 3 minutes.
And I haven't seen it.
Exactly.
And again, they didn't put it in front of my face, so I didn't see it. It's the classic pre-show rule.
Absolutely. So 5 matches to review plus an impromptu segment.
A segment, anyway. Yeah, you can't say that it wasn't.
And led to, of course, a debut of the sorts, a very interesting debut. One that would be overshadowed, of course, by another debut that would happen on the very same night. But in circumstance, overall, before we even dive into the match card itself, I just wanted to ask your general opinion, because obviously I have watched this before, and obviously I got to watch it back, and it felt like I was a child again. But just for yourself, watching this for the first time as an adult, because obviously this pay-per-view came around the year you were born, 2002? 2000.
You're being very kind. Yeah, I was like, you're being very kind.
So, no. My apologies there. Yeah, so around about that period of time, so 2 years into yourself, so you didn't get to see this live, whereas I did. I was 5 years old when this happened. What is your general opinion on this pay-per-view? And if you had to say if you had to do it by, I always go by the Meltzer rule, just because 5 stars, it's simple, it's what they do. But if you had to give this pay-per-view a rating before we dive in, what's your overall consensus and how would you rate it?
If I don't get to faff around with quarter stars, because I'm debating between 3 and 3.5.
You can certainly do quarters or half.
I'd probably go 3.25 stars. I thought it was a good show. But I thought the main event very much brought that rating up and made it feel like a good show. I thought the earlier action, I mean, we'll talk about it. I thought, of course, it maybe a little pedestrian. I don't know. I don't want to give a match in 2002 flack that I know that I'm going to give it. So I'll leave that there. And definitely not a bad show. And the main event was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we will talk about that. But yeah, I mean, I watched it very late Thursday night, crossing into Friday morning. And my birthday was the Friday. So it was kind of how I started my birthday. Was sort of in the middle of this show. And hi there, Abu. Nice to see you again.
Boom.
But yeah, as far as sort of, started my birthday by watching that, and it was we were in the middle of the card and whatever, and I had a good time, and I thought it was exciting, and it was one of those things where I didn't want to, I wasn't looking at for most of it. There was something that just sort of didn't catch my attention really, but again, we'll get into that. I'll throw the question to you. You'd obviously seen it before. Where would you have ranked it?
Well, as a child, I didn't really give it. I didn't really give it a review as a child. I just loved it. And I just loved the barbaric use of like the chairs and the Elimination Chamber for the first time. That caught me up. Like that caught me by that surprise. I wanted to, but as an adult, I would have to give it probably just a little bit higher than you, just a little bit. Like I'd give it 3.5, but purely because of the chamber and the triple threat tag team match that we'll come to. I think those two were the real standouts. They brought up for me. I thought one or two matches maybe could have had a little bit more, but there is one other match on this card that I think actually, to its degree, considering the two individuals going into the match, certainly was better than the WWE title match. But obviously, the WWE title match was overshadowed by Brock Lesnar's rib injury. They had to have it reduced time scale. That's why it lasted less than 4 minutes and 20 seconds. But there is something to this show that generally just gives you that vibe. It was one of the best pay-per-views of 2002. Probably one of them. Not the outstanding best one, because I'd say the best one for me that year was either SummerSlam or WrestleMania. I thought they had more to it, but this was certainly a good one. But I think 3.25 is very fair, and I think probably 3.5 is also fair. I don't think it was
as I said, I was debating it, and I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I have to say on 3.25, I have to sort of land there.
Absolutely. We are going to rate every match as well, and based on our personal opinions. We are going to give
something's going to get something. Let's say that. But
yes, we are going
to hear on the commentary to start us off. And we see all those signs, but we're here in Jim Ross, the world's most famous arena. We're in Madison Square Garden, capacity crowd, and there's a lot. It was very good.
Absolutely.
And there he is. The champ is here.
We won't call him that. After he came out, he came at me with a. Like with the Roman Reigns acknowledge me pish. So I'm not giving him this.
I will acknowledge you, Billy. Obviously, if people don't know what we're talking about, the quiz last week, you don't have to go and listen to the whole review of my favourite Survivor Series, but I would love it if you did, because it's always a good time. But towards the end, we obviously had our weekly quiz. We do have another quiz, of course.
Revenge.
It would be me without writing one. But yeah, so we will get into that. I mean, in terms of world's most famous arena, the general atmosphere it gave you. What did you think of those opening shots?
I thought it was great. It certainly gave you that vibe. It gave you that vibe that you were at a main spectacle, that you are going to be entertained, and also they are there for the taking. They want to get the best shots possible of the fans. They don't do it a lot these days. Nowadays, it's just a hover glance over the first row and a couple of rows, and you see like maybe one or two of the back row. And then it's straight to the main screen where you see, or we're in, for example, San Antonio, Texas. Nobody really gives a crap, and then we get on with I'm just. I don't think
you meant for that to sound anti-Texan, but it sure sounded.
No, I'm not.
Someone was annoyed by the main
event. No, I'm not anti-Texan. I'm just using it as like nobody gives a crap, because nobody, we already know where it's going to be live from. We don't have to be seeing like a big massive screen, but we're here like. Nobody cares. Just get straight into what matters most.
It's a bit hypocritical with the whole White Rabbit thing going on. We care about everywhere where everything's going on at the minute, or at least the White Rabbit does. And we will talk about the White Rabbit, but we'll talk about next week. I think you said you were gaming for next Saturday, Reece?
Yes, I am, because we are back to normal next week.
Next Saturday, because birthdays only come once a year. Next Saturday, we're back and we'll be previewing Modern Wrestling. We'll be talking all things Extreme Rules leading up to it. AEW hasn't quite yet urinated itself like we thought it would, so we don't really have to cover them again until someone else goes on fire. And other than the Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews situation, there isn't a whole lot that wasn't the case the last time we spoke about it. Moxley's still champion, nothing really changing there. We've sort of dropped the modern wrestling stuff while Crown Jewel's been built and while, of course, Extreme Rules has been built. That's why we've had 3 retro reviews. We are open to doing more retro reviews, certainly around Rumble time. We will watch some old Rumbles. Maybe don't make us watch old WrestleManias, or if you are, pre the 5-hour cards, like the 3.5 hour cards. Great. I don't want to rewatch WrestleMania 32 ever again.
I can already say though, if we are going to do classic reviews, if we do Royal Rumble, if we do WrestleMania, everybody's going to know right now. I'm telling you, it's Royal Rumble 2001 and WrestleMania 17. They are by far my favorite because they were both the same year, and also they had the best Royal Rumble build up, and it was by far the best WrestleMania. It was just classic. Good shout.
When Nate wins it, yeah.
Royal Rumble 1992 when it was.
He wasn't that.
Oh yes.
Without Bobby Heenan, that is it's still a moment, but Heenan makes it absolutely undeniable.
I'm also open to doing WrestleMania 13 as well because it was obviously I didn't see this one. I saw WrestleMania 17 was the first WrestleMania I saw live. I watched it with my grandparents and my mum. But WrestleMania 13 was the year I was born, and that was the year Taker won his first world title in 6 years. It was the first time that Bret Hart faced Stone Cold on since it was the first time he fought him since since Survivor Series '96, and it was also the first time they had to go outside the rules to actually get it done. That was like the bleeding. Royal Rumble for me when Shawn Michaels and Bulldog was the last two. First 2 men, 1995. The shortest.
Hey, not just a pretty face. I knew something.
The shortest Rumble in history, 45 minutes. Every wrestler came in at.
That's basically what we're saying. And of course, Survivor Series will be building up to that again. So if you have any more Survivor Series that you want to throw at us, obviously if things are building modern, we will talk about what's going on, but talking for 2 hours about what's going on in modern wrestling, it's fine if you have a card to preview and it's totally done, but when we have a card to preview and there's 2 matches, we don't have a lot to talk about there. So
May I put a
course.
suggestion to you, co-host, and we'll see if the live chat agrees? Because this year is called Survivor Series War Games, do you want to review 1 week where we do... do you want to do 1 week? I agree with this. War Games team prediction. We can certainly do that. Yep. 1 week we do a WCW War Games War Games review, and then the other we'll do an NXT takeover. So we'll do back-to-back 90s versus.
And once again, you'll be going back to the past, and I'll be bringing the people back again. I'd have to pick my favourite War Games, and to be fair, I think most of them have been pretty stellar shows from NXT. War Games team prediction. I said this. You don't know if Roman Reigns is going to do it because you could very easily just say no.
Well, he's not doing Extreme Rules tonight. None of the Bloodline are. None of them.
Yeah, but I think for your Survivor Series, if it's going to be the main event, Roman has to be there. Mm-hmm. So Roman Reigns with the Bloodline. I'd just make the Bloodline your 5.
Good man. Get your suggestions in the live chat throughout, guys, if you want to do it, because I'm all for it.
Absolutely. If we don't respond to your comment right away, it's just because we'll be in the flow discussing a match. We're not ignoring you. We'd never do that to you.
Absolutely. We are going to.
I think just real quick. I think it's Bloodline versus Drew, Seth, Riddle. I think Sheamus and Sheamus. Probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have preferred to have seen Imperium involved. There's just something about it, but you can't have heels versus heel stables. But
anyway, that will be confirmed and that water will flow under the bridge. But we're going back in time. Join us in the time machine and we will start with the first match. Now, this one confused me because I saw, and again, it probably shows my age, I saw the, Dudley's thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw 2 of the Dudleys and Jeff Hardy.
Yes.
and they said that Jeff Hardy was replacing an injured Devon.
Yeah, that's correct.
Which threw me for a bit, because I was like, this team just doesn't look right at all. But it's almost like Bubba Ray would never look right to me. Bubba Ray and Spike, they'd never look right to me without Devon. So there was that sort of feeling about it. And then the heels came out, and I knew two of them. And
Which
I had no
ones?
idea who Rico was.
Ah, right. So you knew Jamal and Rosie.
Yes.
Fair enough. Obviously, Jamal would go on to become Umaga, and obviously Rosie was tag team with the Hurricane just a few short years later.
See,
Rico,
that's what I knew. I knew superheroes in training.
yeah, that's it. Rico was just like a modeling guy. He used to, fun enough, he used to be the manager of Billy and Chuck. You know, when WWE decided to go full in on a very open homosexual tendencies tag team without going the full way, except they went to a wedding that got absolutely destroyed by Eric Bishop.
I don't know what year that film came out, but could the fact that they were Chuck and Billy have something to do with the film called Chuck and Larry? It was the Adam Sandler movie. I don't know what year it came out. It could be that, adding two and two together and getting 7. But
aye,
it seems very close. And yeah, I mean, again, I think we've spoken about it before. The Attitude Era had attitude, and afterwards, the Ruthless Aggression Era was trying to go that South Park route of how shocking can we make it? And the Ruthless Family Guy would then go and take how shocking can we make it? And it didn't really work. But yeah, so he was their manager.
He was, yeah. He turned on them after WrestleMania 18 when they retained the tag titles in a fantastic elimination tag match that also involved the Hardys and it also involved the Dudley Boys. It was a brilliant tag match, to be fair. Also, people probably more remember that match for Jeff Hardy slapping Stacy Keibler in the ass, but that's probably it.
Different time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But if anything, though, like he was actually a decent worker, though, in the ring. Rico, he was actually a decent worker. He didn't go to
do anything here that looked,
out of place.
Doing. I just didn't know who he was. But yeah, so they come out, and I mean, the 3 heels don't look like much of a team. Which I mean, they were just sort of looking like rough guys, but there wasn't even really like a signature look to any of them, and they looked just sort of. And again, this is what happens when you don't know the stories going in. They looked a bit thrown together.
Yeah, they were. It was involving a segment Unforgiven. It was leading up to Unforgiven. You had Rico managing Chuck and Billy, and you had every Raw segment at the time. It was Eric Bischoff say, like, "I'll give you 3 minutes." He'd done it to anybody, and you would have them taken out by Jamal and Rosie, 3-minute warning as they were called. And then at Unforgiven, Rico would get involved, and Rico would actually cost Billy and Chuck the win, and he would then turn heel and join them. It was all stemmed from that wedding scene as well, and that's where it comes to. This was the second pay-per-view. Yeah, second pay-per-view down the line where you saw them as a full-fledged, where Rico did go to Raw permanently, sided with Jamal and Rosie. But also at the time, Devon Dudley was just returning from injury, but he was also the Reverend Devon gimmick, which, to be fair, if you're going into a triple tag match, elimination tag match over a table match, it's not really going to work if you've got a Reverend going, "Oh, testify." It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
It could have.
Oh, Testa drop through the table.
Well, what if you lay Jamal down on the table and then read in the last rites?
That would be funny.
Again, there was potential.
That is a fact. That was peak saliva.
100%. Thing is, the song was playing. I was like, I recognise the voice. It's like, is that Batista's entrance theme? And then, sure enough, comes out at the end. It was a Saliva song. So that's now on the ever-growing playlist.
Oh, it's been on my phone for a very long time. But we are going to go through each one by one, and we're going to go through it. So I've got the timings here. We're going to go through each spot, but I'm going to give the timings for each elimination. So this match was 14 minutes and 22 seconds. Spike Dudley, that's true. Chad Kroeger and Spider-Man 2, that's correct. And also he was involved for the first song as well, from the first movie. Spike would get eliminated at 4 minutes 25. Rosie would be eliminated at 7 minutes 59. Jeff Hardy, very controversial elimination. I'll come to that very later on, why that's the case. 11 minutes 12. Jamal, 12 minutes 50. And lastly, Rico would be involved in the final elimination at 14 minutes and 22 seconds. I'm going to go for it. For me, the first spot that actually caps off my mind, because the match doesn't have a really good start. It doesn't really build up until the tables in the ring set up. Spike, as he's done before in hardcore matches, he's going for the Dudley Dog, which is basically his equivalent of a sliced bread, and he's going for it on Rico, to which he counters it, and Jamal and Rosie puts him through the table with a beautiful double flapjack. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my notes say Spike was out first via death. This looked like it killed him. And Spike does so well to take those bumps, did so well to take those bumps. Really just sort of this almost just bouncy ball for the other two or for anyone that they were feuding with to just get thrown about. He knows how to take it. And yeah, it just looked like it absolutely killed him. And that's what it should look like. We shouldn't just be going through tables and getting up right away. Mm-hmm. So I thought the spot was done really well. And yeah, I mean, these people sort of as a team, they were getting over with me a bit more at that point. Because you're like, okay, well, we can work together. You know, that's always something when you have these sort of to me, apparent ranking teams, because I didn't know.
Absolutely.
It's always about, okay, well, can they actually work together, or have we got a case of like Dogs of War, or not even them, Corbin and his mates, where they didn't really do much together?
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. There is a melee involved, Hardy and Bubba Ray Dudley. They are now at a 3-on-2 disadvantage against Rico, Jamal, and Rosie. A good melee which leads to outside the ring. Bubba Ray lines up a table. It gives me an honorary mention to the Royal Rumble, where the Hardys faced Dudleys in a tag team table match. I think it was Royal Rumble 2001, but I think it was the 2001 Royal Rumble. But it's a brilliant tag. No, they were in the Rumble 2000. There's a perfect setup of the table, and they would then do it again at WrestleMania 16, 2000, where the table was lined up on the entranceway of Madison Square Garden. Rosie's laying flat. Hardy climbs up towards where the fans are and does a beautiful, probably his only good moment of the match, because he does a massive cock up, which will come later on, because Rico, rightfully so, does get angry, and I don't blame him for this. But that swanton through it was perfect, and it was a good throwback to that triangle ladder match that they had in 2000, where he did do the swanton. But would you agree? Probably the next best spot was probably
this was young and probably clean Jeff Hardy before all the bumps had sadly sort of taken their toll on him, as we see now. This was great, sort of the fight on the outside, and I wondered for a split second what was going on, because Jim Ross didn't even know what to call it. That metal thing. Basically, how they put the red tape, like the red rope, on to like let people into a nightclub or keep people out. It froze. And I didn't know what to call it then. And I was like, no, Jim Ross is right. I don't know what to call it. The word escaped me. But then, Bubba Ray just sort of tees him up for it. And then, Jeff Hardy, swanton, perfect as you like, through the table. Big pop from the crowd, and you're down to 2v2, and probably the 2v2 that you'd expect out of this as well.
Yeah, Rico and Jamal, by far, like, no disrespect to Rosie. Rosie was a decent worker, but when you look at in-ring work, Jamal was brilliant. And when he became Umaga, he finally got to be exactly what he wants to be, and that's an absolute monster heel, till they turned him into an absolute nugget. But this was generally good work, and it was a good tag match, but this is where, for me, it all goes downhill. There's a fantastic back and forth between Bubba Ray and Jamal. Rightfully so, Jamal is taking control. Rico is in the ring, taunting, as a good heel does. The damage is being done. Bubba Ray is thrown over the barricade by Jamal, showing his strength, like 350 pounds. He wants to show him off. Perfectly done. But it gets to the point where they are setting the ladders up. He's in the ring. He is destroying Bubba Ray, takes him out of the match. And Hardy also recovers as well after he's taken a slight bump as well doing the Swanton. He's selling it really well. Shocking.
Yeah, that's what I liked as well. He wasn't straight up after that.
He done that really well. He's then involved where the match was changed here. This was a change. Originally, Jamal was going to be the last man eliminated, not Rico. Jeff Hardy miscued his timing. He has now disrupted the flow of the match. You can hear Rico legitimately shouting at Jeff Hardy, telling him to, and I'm going to say the exact words, so if anyone's watching, don't take offense, but his exact words were, Hardy, will you hurry the fuck up? He is telling him to hurry up because they know their timing. They've got to run it, otherwise they will get cut. Back then, if you were overtime, you were just cut. Hardy.
But also, the other thing was not only knowing their timing, but whenever you go for a spot, you're on the clock.
Exactly.
And whether that be a spot that you've set someone up for a splash, you've set someone up for a big slam, big move. If you want the crowd to really buy into the spot, you're on the clock, you know? Like, you can't. And there's some people in both major companies who are really bad for this. So it's like, I'm going to do a spot, so I'm going to look around and I'm going to sell for a minute and I'm going to pose for the crowd. It's like, but he's still like your opponent's still lying there dead. Like, why? You know, because the longer that your opponent has to lie there and wait for you, the worse you're making them look, the worse you look, and the worse the match gets. And that was the other thing, I think. So not only in terms of knowing the pay-per-view timing, but also, just as you say, they were in the flow of the match, and it's about getting that moment to stick.
Exactly. And to be fair, I'm on the same wavelength as Billy. I think you're the same. Also, you're a big Rey Mysterio fan, but I know you like Jeff Hardy as well. We're the same. Like, I'm going to go another one further. If anyone can remember this stable, they were amazing. The Radicals. Like, obviously, you had Eddie Guerrero, you had Perry Saturn, like the Man of 1,000 Holds. Like, you had some generally good workers. But then when he came up against a jobber, Perry Saturn went out of his way to nearly kill the man over one mistake. Like, he made one mistake, this jobber, and Perry Saturn legitimately tried to injure him. He threw him over the top rope. He landed on his neck. He then threw him headfirst into the steel steps and then legitimately was punching him. This is when, at the time, Perry Saturn was doing really well in the ring. He then got punished by...
Such a silly thing to do. I understand the whole being professional, but any time that all that hazing happened, then I know different time, but the fact remains, like, let management do the punishment. Or, you know, if they are going to do like Wrestler's Court, let JBL and The Undertaker do it. You're Perry Saturn.
Exactly.
Just leave it out. Well, and also, mentions a match that, you know, you're talking about Jeff Hardy's unprofessionalism. How can you not think of Victory Road?
That was,
and to be fair, that's unprofessionalism across the board. Because management shouldn't allow Jeff Hardy to go out in that state. Jeff Hardy shouldn't allow himself to be in that state, but you're already past that. The minute Jeff Hardy shows up for that show and he is not fit for the ring, then you have another case of...
I can generally remember his entrance full swing as well.
Like when Alicia Fox got to have a match even though she was intoxicated. You have another case of, well, someone's let that happen. The wrestler hasn't just come out. And I'm not saying Jeff Hardy's blameless, but of course, when it is these things, and especially when it's these repetitive things, all you can say to someone is that they can get help, but you can't, in every case, force them to take that help.
I disagree on this. They were at that point, but not right now. For me, right now, the best run company is Impact Wrestling.
Well, TNA don't exist anymore, Reece.
Exactly, it's Impact Wrestling. I think they are so much better managed now than what they used to be. They're actually ahead of WWE in terms of consistency and booking. We'll come to that another day. We're not doing it today.
Yeah,
but
I mean, so as far just like the Jeff Hardy going back to the spot, you know, again, it's that unprofessionalism that Billy talks about. But here, I don't think that's unprofessionalism. because here you're not talking about 40 whatever year old he is now, Jeff Hardy. This is 20 years ago, people.
Yeah, this
young
is mid-20s Hardy. This is
completely like inexperienced, and obviously had his local independent days, and this wasn't his WWF debut, but he is still green compared to what we would go on to know him as, compared to WWE champion Jeff Hardy. He's still green at this point. So I almost wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it must be tough as well, because he'll know in his head that he's up. And then to have a guy like Rico, hurry the F up, that's only going to put him more under pressure. And it's like, oh no, and then he's rushing. And when you rush a spot like that, you add to the complications, and you'll be able to say exactly how the botch finished, because the crowd noticed it.
Exactly, and it doesn't help as well that Hardy would, because of this was actually one of the first things Eric Bischoff actually noticed at the time. It was actually Eric Bischoff that released him. Like after WrestleMania 19, he got released purely in the back of this, and obviously drug issues and alcohol, which I feel sorry for him about, did creep in. This where it got really serious. But it was accidental. Like it was accidental, but it was purely from that spot with the Swanton, and it's cost him here. But he's actually had a fair decent match. It's just this where it's happened. He's made the mistake. They've decided, right, how do we rectify this? Dive and splash from Jamal through the table. Brilliant for Hardy that he actually sells it as an elimination. Brilliant for Jamal. Still shows him as a monster heel. But also brilliant for the fans who were nearly lost. They nearly lost the fans on this one. They managed to keep them.
Yeah. What I didn't realize was the fans were still smart. Like quite a lot of them, because I don't know how many chances of you effed up you got, sort of certainly early Attitude Era, because people are still lost in the action. You can really hear this is a smart New York crowd.
Oh yeah.
When there's audible you effed up chants, they know what he's done.
That's what I liked about the New York fans, which of course we'll come to the segment later on, which is brilliant response to this. The next spot, there's only 2 more spots to go before we come to our score. And guys, get yourselves in for your rating of this match. Bubba Ray Dudley would then eliminate Jamal with a top rope powerbomb. Classic Bubba Ray, brilliant. Yeah. And then the Reverend would return and would be involved in the Dudley Death Drop, as it was called back then. It would then be renamed the 3D when they went to Impact, but the Dudley Death Drop on Rico for the win. I'm just going to say this now. If that botch hadn't happened, I'm not putting all the blame on Hardy for this one. I think it could have been a little bit better with Rico and Jamal. They could have helped him slightly a little bit here. As a heel, they could have went out in the ring and maybe done a bit of damage and put him on the table. Originally, I would have given this a 3. But because the botch did get involved, I have to reduce it a little bit. So I'm going to say 2 3/4.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it on the curve, I mean, I don't know. I think 2.5. I think without it, you're looking at as you say, a 3, maybe 3.25 star match. I thought, it's a good opener, but that botch is quite glaring, and sort of that was one of my main takeaways. So obviously, I love the Dudleys. And there's a bull in there with a 2.5. Yeah, I mean,
respectable, sir. Respectable.
I think you've got to go with that 2.5 sort of, because it was okay, but that box really did just sort of bring it down. And you could tell that the wrong person was left as well. Like, they didn't hide that either. You knew that Jamal was still meant to be in the match.
Exactly.
He still got involved. He still moved things. He was still trying, because he was like, "Well, I'm still involved in things." Then he realized he had to go. Which can't be that. Can't be that nice when you're a performer, and it's like forgetting your line on stage almost. That's kind of what happened.
I agree, and on the back of this as well, we are going to go with the majority. So if Billy comes in with 2 3/4, then we'll just do an average. And we'll just go for
that would be 2.625.
Yeah, we can do that.
Then Dave Meltzer would really be taking the piss, wouldn't he?
Exactly. But I'm just going to ask, who was your standout performer? I'm going to say for me right now, because his timing was perfect. He knew his spots really well, and he tried to do what he could to fix the match. For me, my standout performer, I think this is going to be unanimous. Mine was Jamal. Who was your standout in this tag? Billy's come straight in.
I hated this 1.5. See, I can't do that, Billy, because there's something that's getting hounded, and it will come. So I can't do that.
I know exactly what you're going to hound as well. That's the best part.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will get to it, but not next.
But your standout performer.
My standout performer, and it shows how sort of simple-minded I am, and at times. But I thought Bubba Ray was Bubba Ray, and I really liked him. And I thought he does exactly what you want him to do. And I also love when Devon comes down and they hit the 3D as we know it now. And it's such a lovely move. It's so great and right through the table. And yeah, I mean, classic Bubba Ray performance.
It looks like Abul and Billy are also agreeing with you. Bubba, Bubba. I remember we used to do it in we had the it doesn't matter. I always loved that.
I remember talking about that, yeah. So, but yeah, so after that opener, we came on to a match between Jamie Noble and Billy Kidman. And the build-up in the match said that Jamie Noble kept getting one-upped by Billy Kidman. And Jamie Noble's girlfriend, Nydia, was not too about that either. So she comes out there. I was trying to remember what show this was on, Reece, but Jamie Noble fights her with a blindfold on.
He does it on SmackDown, and he also does it on...
It's a pay-per-view match, but I can't remember if it's an Unforgiven or an Armageddon.
I think it's Armageddon, because Unforgiven, he's still defending the Cruiserweight title. I think it was Armageddon. To be fair, Armageddon 2002 only had, 2 good matches, and funnily enough, one of them actually involves somebody that I'll be bringing up later on in the show. But yeah, it was mental. I agree with this. I love this match. 7 minutes, 29 seconds. You didn't have to have...
what 205 Live could have been if the fans would let it be this. Because 7.5 minutes of just flawless action. Both these guys I'd seen so little of in the ring. And they both, immediately are over with. They know where to be. It's almost flawless. We mentioned it, but it is the Heat/pre-show rule. If they didn't bother to put it on the pay-per-view, we're not bothering to talk about it in any great detail.
Also, before we move back onto this match, I also want to say as well, Sunday Night Heat back then was for an hour. I find it slightly disrespectful that they gave 2 amazingly underrated talents in Lance Storm and William Regal 3 minutes with Goldust and Hurricane. Hurricane's not a bad guy. He ended up becoming an amazing heel cruiserweight champion as himself, Gregory Helms. And Goldust, to be fair, 260 pounds, was still a very good worker in the ring. But 3 minutes and 1 second is all I'm going to say was shambolic. That should have been at least 8 minutes for a tag, especially in Sunday Night Preview. I ignored it.
All right, Abel. Don't worry about that. So in terms of this match,
this is correct.
Yeah, the Billy Kidman, Jamie Noble, just really tidy cruiserweight stuff. You could look it forward and you could say some, Tony Nese versus TJP. It's the same sort of thing, just a tidy 7-8 minute cruiserweight match. Doesn't have to blow people's minds, but it's athletic, it's quick, which I suppose is important for cruiserweight matches, that we've got that fleet of foot, sort of really quick stuff. There's moments of technique, technical wrestling in there as well, but they don't, just sit on the technical wrestling. It doesn't become this sort of mat shoot. I liked the repeated attempted roll-ups as well, because Billy goes in with confidence, and he's like, well, I'll just roll you up and take it then. I suppose that's where Orange Cassidy got the idea for half his moveset, but I don't want to, burden Billy Kidman with an Orange Cassidy comparison, because I thought Billy Kidman was great. The fans clearly agreed, because he was so over on the night, and the fans really delighted to see, spoiler from 20 years ago, Billy Kidman win the Cruiserweight Championship.
And yeah, in my opinion, he had the best high-flying finish of all time. The shooting star press. Although I think it got usurped by one other man who done it really well. I think
Brock Lesnar.
No.
Okay. Okay.
For me, my all-time favorite shooting star press though is, if anyone can guess us in the live chat, or even yourself, if anyone can guess my favorite shooting star press, I will give you a shout out. Billy Kidman is definitely second. The only thing that lets him down though was in mid 2003. If you rewatch SmackDown, his positioning and his timing of the shooting star press, which led to getting banned, really started to go off because he did legitimately injure people. He was supposed to land on the chest. He got his timing wrong in midair, and he actually landed on people's faces. He nearly broke people's necks, including someone who did a shooting star press. This also is my favourite. If anyone can guess it, put it in the live chat, and I will definitely correct you or incorrect you if necessary.
Correct you or incorrect you, yeah.
I
can't. I can't even begin to think of anyone who hits the shooting star press. Oh, maybe.
It's not Jushin Thunder Liger. He's third. He is third.
I'm trying to think if I know anyone who hits it.
I'll tell you who else it wasn't. He's fourth, and that's Matt Sydal / Evan Bourne. He's fourth. I liked his airborne, but it's not my favorite. That's my fourth one. But if you can guess my first one, I swear I'll do it. No, it wasn't him. It wasn't him. But it was amazing. But I'll give you a clue. This man lost to Billy Kidman using the shooting star press. He actually beat him with it. In his debut match as well, was for the WWE title.
Oh, you've come with all the proper nerdy knowledge, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
He's come back with a point to prove, Billy. He said, these people saying I know nothing about wrestling, I'll show you. And he's done like 3 hours. As he said last week, he'll be swatting. I'll give you one other clue.
His tag team partner is a former X Division champion.
Geez, so that's like half the world at this point.
Exactly. So we'll see if anyone gets it.
We'll see. I'm gonna leave that to the chat. Following the Cruiserweight title match, we saw some tension from the Angle and Benoit promo. He spent all week on the network. Exactly. Paul.
Well done.
Very clever.
Paul London for me delivered the best shooting star press. I've only been on the network.
Billy's absolutely been calling you out. He's got some beef. And Abu, you can get involved in this as well. Run down like Seth Rollins with that briefcase.
The only bit of time I've spent the network all week was rewatching this pay-per-view. I came in with the knowledge. I don't have to swat.
Ooh, it's getting tense. Speaking of tense, Angle and Benoit backstage.
Just for you, just like
Angle tells Benoit that we're tag team partners. They go to shake hands. I already knew what Kurt Angle was going to say. He goes, tag team partners don't shake hands. We hug. And Chris Benoit looked really sort of uncomfortable throughout all of this, which I think was great. And it just shows Kurt Angle's sort of versatility as a performer, that not only can he do this sort of stuff, but when it was time to get serious, he could also get serious. This was sort of in the middle of his proper, like, okay, you're here to have fun sort of thing. So just do these weird storylines, and including this team. And of course, they were the former tag team champions.
You said 2001 or 2002, you mug.
If I remember rightly, Billy, you said 2002, but you thought we'd already discussed it, so you said 2001.
So
it could be that we've totally messed this up and I've put it the wrong way round. But 2002 is the one that we've watched. It's the one we have the notes on, so we're not going to go to 2001 now. The time machine has been locked.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I thought the tension between these two was great. Obviously, the former tag team champions having dropped it to the fantastic team of Rey Mysterio and Edge. Yes, but I've now seen them live, and so have you, Reece. So maybe you can agree on that.
It's true. Eilidh hasn't watched 2001. I have.
As I said, if I was younger than 10, I've probably not seen it. It's just the way I roll. But yeah, so after this tension, I think it was here we got that video package for the whole pay-per-view event with the full song. It was somewhere in the show. Just want to make mention of the fact that
Good man.
Just want to make mention of the fact that there was this awesome promo package for all the matches that we got, and then there was a not so awesome promo package.
Yeah, but it ended up being an awesome match.
Oh, are you sure?
Considering what happened at the previous event at No Mercy, considering what happened between these two at No Mercy, this match was perfect for the two of them. And considering the fact that work-wise...
I agree. As little time with as little spots as possible makes the most sense.
I don't know. 7 minutes. 7
You're
minutes.
kidding. 7 minutes?
Victoria and Trish Stratus went for 7 minutes in a hardcore match for the women's title. And I think it was right, considering what they actually had involved. Several spots.
They should have age-gated it. For sure, because
it was definitely hardcore. Could have been a little bit better.
Anyone under 90 shouldn't have to see that. In fact, I under 90. Let's just ban it. Let's just not have it happen. This was terrible.
No, I personally disagree. Oh, before we say anything, Billy Kidman versus Jamie Noble. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5.
Oh yeah, we didn't rank it. I like 4 out of 5. Yeah, I mean, if you look at what it was, obviously it's weird because you're scoring a match out of 5 that went 7.5 minutes. But based on what went on and based on what it could have been, based on the timing, but also if you compare it to like 205 Live now, it's absolutely a 4-star match. For the potential it could have had, 4-star match, absolutely.
It doesn't get a 5 for 2 reasons. One, I thought Nydia's spot was slightly slow in terms of coming on the apron. I thought she could have been a little bit quicker. So she actually delayed Billy Kidman's evasion of Noble when Noble knocked her off. And secondly, I think this match was undercut. I think they could have gave this match an extra minute and a half. I think
they could have given this match an extra 7 minutes, quite frankly. But I think what 7 minutes I mean.
Yeah, I think 15 minutes would have been
awful promo before this awful match. And again, I could be being harsh here, people. Let me know. Victoria is talking to a mirror.
Yes.
And she does the classic mirror, mirror on the wall. But then she hears the mirror say Trish. The mirror didn't. Yes. All I'm saying is, if Alexa Bliss did this in 2021, I would have killed it.
Yes.
So I understand different time, but I'm still going to kill it because this was absolutely nonsense.
Go on. I can always cover in the back of it, but I love the fact you're killing it. So you kill it, and then I'll at least...
She's talking to her own mirror, and then that causes her to break the mirror and to smash some other stuff up in a locker room or makeup room, whatever it is.
Turning heel.
She has. She's in front of a vanity. She turns heel. She smashes some stuff, including the mirror.
Correct.
Because the whole thing is Trish Stratus is prettier than her
by a mile.
That's the whole thing.
And a better worker, although Victoria was actually quite good in the ring, to be fair.
So I hate this feud from the moment the match started. Well, actually, from the moment that video ended, I was like, I absolutely hate this feud. Not made better by King on commentary because you knew what he'd be like. And Jim Ross tries his best to call this, but look, am I old-fashioned in terms of this for saying that I did not want to see 7 minutes?
I had to give that to you. I had to do it.
I did not want to see 7 minutes of two women doing bad spots with weapons. And I certainly didn't need to see Victoria do this, and I didn't need to see... Right, so there's a point in this match where a mirror is put in the corner, and Trish just steps through it.
Yeah, which...
And it's not mentioned at all. It would seem... I was always like, oh, that's important. She shattered the mirror. Commentary don't even mention that she broke the mirror. If the whole thing was she broke the mirror, she's unlucky, that's what led to her losing the title. Great, that's clever. Put her foot through a mirror. I don't even know if it was meant to be there. But the real moment where this match was guaranteed to get a 0, it was guaranteed to get a dud rating. And I'm sorry, an ironing board came out from under the ring. I get different time, but why is that there? No, absolutely not. And the other thing, the fire extinguisher. And I'm sorry because regular listeners will know by now. I am a student of Jim Cornette. Not that he's ever spoken to me, but that I hear everything he says and agree with quite a lot of it. The fire extinguisher being used by a heel gets a pop and it's stupid.
Okay, I'll let you off then. I thought you were going to say they should never have done the fire extinguisher spot. And then I was going to slate you.
But if you're going to do a fire extinguisher spot, I know, Billy, I know, and I'm probably very woke for doing that. Sorry, I found it awful. It was terrible. And the other thing, this fire extinguisher spot, the heel had the fire extinguisher. So it gets a pop when she does it. I suppose the good thing is she then hit a devastating back suplex, which then won her back. I was expecting something more impactful than that. When she hit the back suplex, I was like, this is going to be a near fall. No, 3. So I thought Trish was very weak. And I didn't like Victoria at all. And I'm sorry that the big points of this match seem to have overshadowed genuine work between these two that I just wasn't seeing. I don't know, but
I think you've missed a few bits. I think you missed a few bits that you would have generally liked. Like, for example, the challenger showing her superiority over the champion when she has the broomstick involved. Slight choice. I would have preferred a baseball bat, but she's using a broomstick and she's choking Trish Stratus on from the turnbuckle. I think that's a very good heel spot.
But again, ask yourself.
It's a good spot.
A broomstick?
If anything, I don't blame them. That's what they had to work with. I blame who booked it. At least they've actually made the most of it.
Don't put this... So a bill there, shouldn't use the fire extinguisher. Exactly. Because it's a face that gets a pop. Chris Jericho did it recently. And he got a pop.
Mm-hmm. I would have preferred if Trish Stratus had went for it. I would have changed the end of this match slightly. What I would have done, personally, I'll use the fire extinguisher. Trish Stratus uses it on Victoria. She does stun her a little bit. Hits her, because obviously at the time she wasn't really using the chick kick. That would come in slightly later. She was still using the Stratusfaction. I would have went for the Stratusfaction and then have Victoria kick out. She grabs the kendo stick like she did earlier on, which was a good spot as well, the kendo stick barrage. She's beating the crap out of her. And then she forces her out the ring. She goes for it again, the Stratusfaction, and Victoria counters it. I would have done the back suplex from the middle, from the top, the top. Then
it would have looked,
I knew what I would have done. And what I would have done is I would have done that back suplex on the same trash can lid that was used to bleed her. I would have done it on the exact same as a revenge spot. So, fire extinguisher, blind the challenger, hit the Stratusfaction, kick out at 2. She then gets the kendo stick, bashes her again, goes for the Stratusfaction, but Victoria counters it into the back suplex on the trash can lid, gets the free.
Billy's put a good question to me here. I think I'll answer it. So
I'm going to let you have this one. That's just how I would change it.
Well, I don't have an issue with Victoria generally from what I remember. This feud was nonsense, and again, I'm probably looking at it a bit too woke, and I will absolutely take that. The other thing, though, is, of course, we've got this garbage tag match from 2002, and I suppose I'm just getting bogged down with this garbage hardcore match even from 2002, and I suppose I'm just getting bogged down with how often I see these things, and I suppose in that regard, a broomstick and an ironing board are different, but why did I understand that if they're feuding, this was elevated to a hardcore match? I didn't like it. I didn't like it on this show. Yeah. I didn't like that the men had just had a tables match and then you have this. I didn't like that it seemed to be played for laughs. which it was.
Fair.
I mean, at least in my opinion, don't absolutely Billy and Abu
No
and
respect.
Reece, don't let me tell you how to think about this match.
No,
But
if anything, I
just
respect
bringing my
that you
modern eyes to it. That felt, but Victoria generally, I have no agenda. The only agendas I have are against Brock Lesnar's work rate and
Nikki
Orange
Bailey.
Cassidy. And
And
other
Nikki
than
Bailey.
that, people can sway me either way on whether I like something or hate something. So I definitely don't have an agenda against Victoria, but I thought this sucked.
You're not wrong, Abul. That's why I give massive respect to a certain man who made the phrase "We the People" absolutely amazing, because he gave women a chance in Impact. That's all I'm going to say. Dutch Mantel, thank you for giving women a chance.
I was like, why are you crediting Jack Swagger? But of course.
Definitely Dutch Mantel. Just for what he did. I'm just going to say, I know you're going to give it a 0. I'm giving it a 2. Considering the fact women's quality time, it was a lot better than the No Mercy match. That's why I'm giving it a 2.
Yeah, I'll ask the chat here, okay? Chat, what do you honestly think that should have? Because obviously we're not going to go with my dud rating, and I'm looking at it from a completely different perspective. So from the in-ring work, if you two can come up with a consensus, and anyone else in the comments as well, join in, absolutely.
Absolutely.
If you can come up with a consensus, let me know what you feel that should be. And if I look past the ironing board, the broomstick, and the nonsense, and the fact that we see this every week on TV from both companies, then tell me what that should have been in terms of in-ring. But this match was taking me out the pit. That's why I said I mostly didn't look at my phone. That's why I probably missed a couple of things, just because you see a broomstick and you sort of roll your eyes, and you see the mirror, you see the ironing board, and you just.
I would have had a wooden table, and I would have had a baseball bat, and I wouldn't have had the mirror. That's the only things I'd realistically change. And Billy's going 2.5, so Billy's actually went higher than me. So I think my scoreline of 2 is right in the middle.
Okay, well, if I quickly do this, we do 1 plus 2 plus 2.5. And we'll divide it by 3. Between the 3 of you, you give it a 1 and 5/6.
So we'll just give it 1.5 then. Yeah, fair. 1.5.
Yeah,
perfect. That's their 7 minutes of fame. Moving on.
7 minutes of fame that we probably took 10 minutes talking about.
Yeah. Moving on to the Big Slow versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE title in a match that lasted, and I'm not joking, 4 minutes and 19 seconds. Now, bear in mind,
Brock Lesnar's work rate again.
Bear in mind, though, I am not putting any fault here at Lesnar for this timescale. Brock Lesnar in this match was legitimately injured. He did have broken ribs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I am having a laugh there.
Yeah, I know you are. I know you're having a laugh in this one. I think 14 minutes is for Lesnar, considering what he actually pulled off in this match, is both impressive and legitimately safe for him. The Big Slow wins his first world title since Survivor Series 1999. And everybody knows what Big Show's like. His title reigns are like his weight. It comes and goes. This was a short title reign, but in this case, it's a very good. To be fair, for considering the fact that Brock Lesnar's got broken ribs and he's 295 pounds up against a 500-pound man, and a guy who is about a foot taller than him, or about. This is a brilliant match.
Is it bad that the star of the show is Paul Heyman?
No, because it was kind of building up to it in a way. Like throughout SmackDown, they were building up to Heyman like constantly.
I know. What I'm saying is the focus. I don't know. It was weird seeing this, and then the focus. Obviously, only last year, 2 years ago, we were seeing feuds sort of focused on whose side's Heyman on.
Yeah,
and it was weird to see that sort of. Sorry, but I'm not giving that match a rating.
Rock's my goat. That's why I had to say the big. What I will say is, like, I do get where you're coming from, and I think the fact that Lesnar was able to do an F5, an overhead belly to belly suplex, take a chair shot to the ribs and the back, and then get a chokeslam when it wasn't even supposed to be Big Show in the main event. It was supposed to be Hulk Hogan going over again. Hogan refused Lesnar in this match. Therefore, in the history books, Brock Lesnar's first official pinfall defeat is the Big Slow, which I find completely disgusting. I think he should have lost his. I think his first defeat should have been WrestleMania 19 against Kurt Angle.
No, what? You don't think it should have been Hulk Hogan? Shocking.
No.
Puny
Hogan.
You know, as you say, 4 minutes. This was barely a match, but I was used to it because it was Brock Lesnar. So I just had to look at it. He was working. I know that he was injured, but I'm still looking at it objectively from the amount of time that it got. You know, I wasn't there like, oh, Brock Lesnar didn't give me a 20-minute epic with the Big Show. And again, the Big Show, you could look at the Big Show's average match time across pay-per-views. It wouldn't be pretty reading either. You knew this was going to be a quick match. You could tell that Paul Heyman had more than a hand in booking it, not only due to the outcome, but it was very much, you know, big move, big move, big move, big move, and really just trying to...
Exactly. I completely agree with this. I would have had Angle win the 03 Royal Rumble, not Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, but it was like when you've got a match at that time, you either go the cruiserweight approach and try and do as much, or you go the big guy approach, which they obviously had to go to here, not only for the injury, but I think even a fit Brock Lesnar doesn't have a 15, 20-minute epic with the Big Show.
Nah, you get about 8 minutes. Brock Lesnar at this time at least was working 20, 30-minute matches.
Yeah,
I'll give him
no, absolutely. This was
this
the young
one, yeah.
Brock Lesnar, the one that wasn't just pandered to and given multi-million-dollars a year for doing 3 matches. And, drop it, leave it. Right. So, but yeah, overall, this match, I think I'm going to agree with Billy. You can't give it. You know, I won't give it 2. I think 1's harsh. Go 1.5. I thought the ending, however, I thought that was really good because I didn't know that happened. And I like the way that in the promo before it was hinting at like, you can't beat this guy. And I was like, oh, the whole thing's going to be that, yes, he can beat this guy. And instead it was Heyman going, no, you can't beat him because I'm going to hell. And it was really quite... And Heyman's sort of quick, like, come on, get out of here. Like, he knew Brock Lesnar was going to kill him. They run backstage, they get in the limo, and they're off. And I thought that was actually really well done. I mean, if you can put it all together, I'd probably give it 2.5.
Yeah, I would say the same. Realistically, for the whole thing, the match wise, 1.5. The whole feel, definitely build up the match. The segment after, I'd say 2.5 is very fair. I also want to say this as well. Big Show taking the F5 the way he did as well, from considering that Brock Lesnar's got broken ribs. Massive props to that because that's a brilliant landing. Yeah. And it's a brilliant and the fact as well that it's an F5 on the steel chair. Even better. But I love the fact that the ending was the same way. Brock Lesnar takes the finish with a chokeslam on the steel chair, and Big Show casually just throws it out the ring. I love that involvement. I also love the fact that Heyman pulls the ref out and just like punches him in the face. He's like, well, screw you, referee. And Brock Lesnar's reaction.
Well, fair enough.
Very fair. We'll still average out. You're overruled. 2.5. We are going to move on.
I mean, if we're properly averaging out, Billy's the one being overruled because he said 1.5. I think that's harsh. When you put in the drama of the aftermath, which you have to do for Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar, even back then.
Because it leads to so much great moments after this, especially Angle.
It always matters, is the thing. The problem is with how it's mattered recently is that it's been Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Again, we're going to drop it and we're going to go back instead. And we're going to talk about this tag match then. Reece, I want you to take it away. You've said it's your... Did you say second favourite match of the night, or was this your match of the night?
It's Abul's favourite. This is my second favourite.
Yeah, it was Abul's favourite. So we're coming on to it. Guerreros versus Edge and Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit.
Or to best define it, the SmackDown 6.
Yes. Oh.
Come on, you go. There we go. I think I'm back. You hear me?
You said it and it froze time.
Yeah, Abel's favourite match tonight. It is the SmackDown 6 in an elimination tag match. And we are going to go through the spots. I've taken a few. There isn't a lot, to be fair, but it's purely because it's just a great tag. Single eliminations. You didn't have to eliminate both men. It's single partners. Benoit and Angle first to be eliminated at 13 minutes 9 seconds, and then to end the match at 19 minutes 25, the champions are defeated by submission, and the Guerreros are the new champions, and they would hold the title for quite a period of time as well. They held the titles for quite a while, which is good because I thought this was
Guerreros,
and you would get that famous theme song. Viva la Razza would also debut from this tag team as well, which is even better. Although I did like Eddie Guerrero's original WWE, WWF theme song. I thought it was amazing, but this was the theme song.
What you think of certain entrance themes, so take that with maybe not a pinch, maybe just a whole carton of salt.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing in this case?
We know what you think of the Rock's themes.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing. Not
that one from '98. It's awful. But anyway,
it's not.
The Guerreros steal the win, so quite literally, Viva la Razza. Lie, cheat, and steal comes from that, and from other things leading up to it, of course. And there was always that thing throughout the match. The Guerreros didn't want to get involved. They were quite happy to just let the other teams. The Guerreros were sort of either ducking out the tags or just sort of, they weren't calling for the tag or anything like that. The fight would go near their corner, and where you'd think in terms of modern day matches, they'd be looking to tag in. The Guerreros were really not fussed by it. No, it's fine because it's elimination. They fought smart.
Exactly, and I think the ones that actually fought the most stupid of the night, if you think about it, based on booking, it was definitely Angle and Benoit for me. Considering the fact how amazing they are in the ring, 2 ring generals, they were very poor in terms of managing it, whereas the Guerreros were perfect for match time. And I thought, to be fair, I thought Edge and Mysterio did really well defending the titles, their first pay-per-view title defense. But I liked how the match ended. It was a back and forth between all 3 teams, which definitely got the crowd electric. The crowd were at it for the get-go, considering who was involved. I also liked the first elimination, obviously, when Angle and Benoit were eliminated. The spear, I've actually put in my notes as a crisp spear because it was perfectly crisp the way it was handled. For Benoit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This looked a lot better than the sort of jump and cuddle that it became for Edge. And of course it would, because he was getting banged up. He was obviously become more and more injured. But you could tell at this time he's really hitting that spear.
Off. Full on, he was trying to break you in half. And that's what I liked about it. I thought Benoit sold it really well. Benoit sold it like he'd just been stabbed in the heart. That's what I liked about it. And I also like the fact that Angle at the time was also involved outside the ring, couldn't really defend it. And then Angle, as you do, when his partner gets eliminated, goes in a fit, gets angry. Loved it. I loved that from Angle, who would then become a babyface just literally 4 days later. But I like the fact working as a heel, you had crybaby Angle, Benoit saying prove me wrong, as he always does. In his case, he proved steroids wrong. And of course, in this case, it was one too many. Great match. I thought Edge worked really well, leading it as the stronger man of the champions. Mysterio's involvement, his offense was brilliant throughout. Springboards, leaping the ropes, his bulldog that he does, down up. I love that motion. But for me, one of the best moments was by far Benoit selling the spear. Next one I thought was amazing was actually leading up was the 619 attempts that obviously Mysterio would try and go for. Every time, Guerrero's outsmarting it, very clever as you do. I thought the attempt on the spear when he goes and hits the turnbuckle, classic Edge. He sells that always really well when he hits his face off the middle turnbuckle. But then Mysterio goes for one high chance, high risk move too many, gets it wrong, backbreaker into the lasso from El Paso.
Well, I would be so frustrated if I still thought wrestling wasn't sort of pre-formatted. Because I'd be like, what's Ray doing with that, man? He shouldn't have gone for that other high move. It really sort of brought me back to those classic sort of days watching Rey Mysterio, not knowing what wrestling was really, thinking that it was really a contest.
Mm-hmm.
That was yet to be determined, and it would be one of those things where I'd be sort of like a football fan, be like, "Oh, Ray, no," because as you say, he tried too much and he got caught. And
him and Jeff Hardy were the two best at that. Trying too much for the fans when they should have been going for the win, but it's based on booking. I love
classic high flying babyface stuff. I mean, I'm sure you could also find moments where RVD was the exact same, trying too much.
We were coming on that very shortly, but I'm going to say this now: for 19 minutes 25 seconds, this for me doesn't get the full 5, because the main event gets the full 5 in this case for me. But this match overall, timing, workmanship, spot for spot, the involvement, playing to the crowd, this gets a solid 4.5 for me. The only reason it doesn't get a 5, and it's no disrespect to this match, but the main event completely steals from it. Yeah. And that's not through their fault. It's just, this is the first ever Elimination Chamber match that we're coming to. There's no script for this. It's a completely blank template. These are the first 6 men are going to do it, and they pull off a classic with great ring generals involved. And that's no disrespect to this tag match where you had an amazing ring general in Kurt Angle, Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, but you got 3 guys around that where it comes from it. And that's why I'm not giving it
there with a big rating, 4.75 out of 5.
I think that's very fair.
I
think that's very fair as well, but it does not get the full 5 for me.
I think I'll say 4.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it's because the in-ring work was as clean and as sort of nicely done and botch-free and everything as the Kidman and Noble match. But at the same time, I can't give it more than 4 if we're going to talk about the main event.
Because it overshadows it as it's supposed to.
The main event takes that. But next up was a thing happened. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who this was.
Christopher Nowinski, an Oxford graduate. Sorry, Harvard graduate. Sorry,
the first time it said it, and it was Chris, and it was a big guy named Master. I was like, "Is it Chris Masters?" I genuinely googled it, and it's not. It's a different guy.
Chris Nowinski, yeah, he's an absolute dunderhead. He's a moron. But he's a Harvard graduate, but he's an absolute clown. I never liked him, and I love the fact that he got one of the best last rides of all time, because Taker looked like he wanted to kill him, and I love that. Him and Matt Hardy version 1 are insulting the great New York fans in MSG, only for a former world and world tag team champion in Scott Steiner makes his WWE debut.
That's weird.
And he rips them apart.
This was odd, I will say. So they're arguing in the ring. New York are losers. No, they're clearly stupid. And I was like, no, they're clearly losers. They come across to lupid as opposed to stupid losers. They go for lupid, which I'm sure if you look that up means something completely different, but I didn't bother to do it. And then of course the sirens hit, and it's Scott Steiner, and the crowd cared. You got to say that. They really liked seeing him. I think you're still, like, at any point in wrestling history, you're at the point where the fans are looking for that surprise, and the fact that there was something surprising, something unexpected. It got a big sort of pop. It got the reaction that they wanted. I think Scott Steiner's a genetic freak, and he's not normal. And he proves it when he's sort of flexing to the camera. When he came out, I very funnily wrote, Scott Steiner has a 33 1/3 chance % of winning this confrontation. If you know, you know. But Steiner did go on to win it, so he has no chance of beating him.
And he would go on to main event the Royal Rumble, the absolute clown they didn't deserve. But we are going to move on.
There was also something after this that I'd never seen before, didn't know it was his gimmick, didn't know it was a thing, and hated. Randy News. What was this?
He was, because he got injured, he was just updating his injury status every week, and they got really bored of it, and that's when he got put in Evolution.
Right. Okay.
He does it every week. It's so it was so funny. You need to watch them on YouTube. You need to watch it back. It's every single Raw. It's so funny. Just updating my fans. Slight tear this week.
Fair enough.
Delaying the comeback.
It was just bizarre. So then, of course, all eyes to the skies. All eyes on this massive structure that's been looming over the world's most famous arena throughout the show, the Elimination Chamber. And it lowers down, and you get all the statistics, and they're just really putting this over. And who'd be better to put it over than Eric Bischoff himself, who enters. He's carrying what I believe to have been a nightstick. Starts hitting it off the floor and the chain walls of the chamber, and explaining how dangerous it could be, and really just sort of driving home the fact that this is going to be a carnage matchup for the main event, the first Elimination Chamber. Eric Bischoff then, of course, as ever, has to put himself over and say that, you know, he's a genius for coming up with that. Classic Eric Bischoff, and he leaves again. And it's time for that main event.
Even though he didn't create the Elimination Chamber.
No.
It was Triple H.
He likes to say it was him. Well, Triple H was probably still being punished. At least in that regard. Don't
worry, it'll be... We're just going to discuss the Elimination Chamber, so this is going to be a good 25 minutes, then the quiz.
Yeah.
So don't worry.
There may be something else before the quiz that I may have to call you out on and chew you out on, Reece, but we'll find out. So yeah, you've got plenty of time about, and I hope everything's all right.
So do I, mate. So do I. We are going to go through this one. Just rewind as much as you can, or ask for a brief recap when you come back. That's more than fine. Hope you're okay. Anyway, the main event. 39 minutes and 20 seconds for the match itself. I've got the full eliminations here for timing. So Rob Van Dam, who starts the match, gets eliminated at 13 minutes, 37 seconds, and I will be slating Van Dam very shortly. And praising him and slating him at the same time. Booker T, who was the fourth entrant, eliminated at 17 minutes, 43 seconds. Kane, who was the fifth entrant, 22:53. Chris Jericho, who entered third, who was the first man ever to be released from the plexiglass pods, was eliminated at 30 minutes and 43 seconds. And for just over 8.5 minutes between Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Triple H would be eliminated at 39 minutes 20, losing his title, and Shawn Michaels would eventually do this.
There he is. Not the champ that we deserved, but the champ that we so desperately needed.
And the last time he would ever win a world title in his illustrious career. A 4-time world champion, Mr. Michaels, but this was his shortest reign. Yeah,
well,
shorter than...
if you lose your smile, and
that was his second shortest.
Yeah, and you have, of course, the back injury as well. You know, his career was really short, and you talk about 04 isn't much, but when you look at all the years and the potential feuds and things that he missed out on, you know, you could easily be looking at a 9 or 10-time world champion.
I actually think
6 or 7, but yeah.
I actually think if he hadn't broke his back, and it wasn't all Taker's fault, it just unfortunately happened.
Just happened, yeah.
If he hadn't got injured, Steve Austin still would have won the world title at WrestleMania 14. That was what was going to happen. That was the plan.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Triple H and The Rock may not have got 10 world titles and 14 world titles. I think they would have had 6 and maybe 8 or 9. I think Triple H would have had 8 or 9. The Rock would have had 6. But his title reigns would have been longer. I think they would have given Rock more time in the title. I felt it was a bit unfortunate he didn't get a lot of time. His longest title reign was 4.5 months.
Yeah.
For a guy as good as him, I think he deserved 6 months. I think it was a bit shit when they didn't do that for him, but that's just my personal opinion. But we are going to go through it. So the match begins with the world champion starting in the ring. And I thought JR's commentary was amazing. One spot when he says, if Triple H outlasts everybody and wins this, then he deserves to be world champion. Fantastic bit of commentary from the GOAT himself. But it does start with RVD, and RVD is beating the piss out of him. Back and forth, the light heavyweight has taken full control. He is dominating the pace. Triple H cannot keep up with it. He takes seven Irish whips into, or just throws into the steel, which of course busts him open. Triple H sells us really well, like the top heel that he does. And for that 5 minutes, it's literally he cannot get a move in. And I think that's great that the babyface is having full control. And I think if this had been Triple H dominating it, then you would have thought maybe Booker T was coming out, because then it would be babyface versus babyface against the heel. But no, the babyface is dominating the heel, and then Chris Jericho comes out. And I also thought another amazing spot before Jericho comes out was the Rolling Thunder involvement over the ropes.
Rolling Thunder always looks good, but especially here. I mean, he finds so many cool ways to do it and just cool little transitions for it. And RVD's great for sort of threading his own moves together and coming up with ways to make them look different. And yeah, no, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was cool as well when he goes for, like as you say, he goes through the ropes, and then I turned to Greg and I asked him, I was like, can you pin someone in between the rope and the steel bit?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's going to be tricky when you've got the rope there. But if he like hooked his arm round, he could have lifted his leg. He could have. And I'm just wondering, like,
the original rules, yeah, you could. The original rules, you could. Pinfall and submission used to be on the steel, and then they changed it where it could only be inside the ring. I kind of hate that. I would have liked a false count anywhere involvement because it's the whole field. What's the point? I think that's quite crap. But it generally was that, and I think they could have done something better with that. I do agree with you. But I just like, as the match does continue, you will get more of that as well. Where I thought one moment actually came up really quickly, and this is an impromptu spot, but I thought it was brilliant. RVD's spinning heel kick on Jericho. Fresh man comes out. You're thinking he's going to take him. He's going to get the clothesline because he's got Triple H in the ropes. He's doing really well with the forearms. Sees Jericho coming, turn around, bang, knocks him.
Yeah,
clean.
I didn't expect him to do that. You know, I expected him just sort of, keep controlling Triple H, not really take much notice to Jericho. Jericho gets him. Of course, if that was to happen, he would have to ignore the rubbish sound effect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, the sound effect wasn't as great as we know now.
Yeah.
It was really sort of, I don't even know what this was, but it didn't sound right for the Elimination Chamber. That again, just picking at nits, so I am, but you wouldn't know me for doing anything different. But yeah, RVD hits that heel kick, and it was good to see a babyface with the brain. And I said that, and then of course we would go on to how RVD was eliminated, but not before more entries.
Yes, Booker T would be the next man to come out, and Booker T was at it for the get-go.
Fantastic. Booker T really impressed me. Really good. I mean, I always knew him as like solid in ring, and this just sort of doubled down on that. I thought he did everything that he was supposed to. Again, he's another one of these guys that has that signature combo, but unlike sort of your modern day like where he's only got 3 or 4, there's like 8 or 9 recognizable Booker T spots, and he hits them all clean and flush, and it gets the sort of reaction that you want, and his selling's good, and again, a guy that was probably held down.
Yeah, especially by somebody who's in this match.
Yes.
I did like his involvement. I like the fact that he went from his super kick equivalent that he always does with the arm wringer. I also like the fact that he goes for his jumping heel kick. I love
that kick.
Yeah, I love that. I love the sweeps. I love the fact he goes for his spine buster. The power slam's brilliant.
But and when he clears the field and he's like spin-a-rooney.
Yeah.
The crowd love it. The crowd absolutely love Booker T.
Definitely. Brilliant scissor kick as well.
And fun fact, because I was looking this up, Booker T was most underrated in the Wrestling Observer newsletter in
That's correct. That's
thought.
correct. I actually forgot I actually forgot to mention this as well because we were talking about it earlier on. The women's match was the first time that the women's title changed hands in Madison Square Garden in 17 years at that point. I forgot to mention that. 1985 was the last time it changed hands in MSG.
I feel really bad for absolutely killing that, but if you like rants, I may have another, but not for 2002, because as I think we've already made clear, this match was superb.
Absolutely, but I also liked.
I
thought the scissor kick was done perfectly. The spinner run, as you said, was entertaining. But this is where it would then start to go downhill for me. There's only one poor moment in this entire match, and it's actually Rob Van Dam's fault. Rob Van Dam should have went for just a normal 5-star frog splash. Instead,
it would have been fine, but he wants the moment, and he loves the moment, and he's extreme. Remember that.
Yeah, he climbs to the top of the pod, and he goes for the 5-star frog splash. Because of the distance and the fact he's having to go from that angle, he can't do it properly. And he legitimately injures Triple H as well. He actually injures Triple H's throat. That's why he sounded like a croaky bastard.
Yeah, he hasn't always sounded like that, guys. It was RVD's fault. That's why he now sounds like that.
It sounded worse. He did sound much worse, but he did legitimately.
I know. He has always sounded like that, but this made him sound a lot worse. And you know, no part of you goes, "Oh, that's great selling." You're always like, "Oh, he absolutely landed on his throat right there."
But the good thing is, as he always does, when he hits a 5 stars, he does that little roll, gets back up, and then with the most beautiful of missile drop kicks, Booker T eliminates him.
Yeah,
perfect elimination.
Commentary did well as well. So rather than saying that RVD had just been caught off guard with the drop kick, what they were actually saying was that he didn't hit his knee. He tweaked his knee on the jump, and I thought that was good coverage for the botch, and people would hopefully take more notice to the fact that RVD was out than the fact that the world champion is currently, like struggling to breathe because RVD just landed on his throat.
Definitely. We then get to the fact where Booker T is controlling the tempo for a brief moment, only to then be eliminated by the Lion Salt from Chris Jericho. I think that was the correct elimination. I think that was correct to do it. I think Y2J solid. Brilliant there because he controls it in Triple H's absence. We then get one entry that really becomes a recurring theme when he's in the Elimination Chamber. Kane comes out and just causes absolute carnage left, right, and centre. I'm going to let you take it from here on Kane's carnage.
Kane, innit? Kane comes in, runs the show, but one thing that was important about Kane was that, and I think this fed nicely into the sort of character Kane is. He's in here, but I don't know if he understood that he was supposed to pin people. Because he didn't. He didn't. He just destroys the field and then decides to destroy people a bit more. And he goes on the outside, and we know as well what he did to old poor Chris Jericho.
That was brilliant. That was a fantastic spot.
The first man to come out of a pod, as you said, should be the first man to be thrown into a pod.
Absolutely. And he does it beautifully. The 8-time world champion does it with beauty.
That glass always looks like plastic, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The way that it falls, it's sort of like one of those action figure cases.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be plexiglass, but it looks something different. I agree with you. Shawn Michaels would then come out. He would actually for a brief period of time actually dictate the tempo of the match itself, as you do. Fresh man out, last man to enter. But he forgets someone very important. He forgets Kane exists, and he walks into a chokeslam.
Yeah,
Kane is obviously then dominating for the last period of time, but they decided if they want to end this match, they have to get rid of the big man. So you get the super kick. He walks into the pedigree, and then he gets covered by Chris Jericho after taking a beautiful lion salt.
Yeah, it's nice to see Chris Jericho hit that move properly, based on the couple of times in AEW. And he can hit it properly still, but there have been a couple of...
He should stop using it now,
in
though.
AEW. Yeah, leave the memories alone, Chris. Come on. But this was great. I mean, obviously, it's classic big man stuff. It had me thinking of the Braun Strowman thing. Now, of course, Braun Strowman didn't take the pin when it happened, but Braun Strowman was hit by just about every big move and still went on to eliminate everyone except Roman Reigns in that chamber match that I don't want to talk about because it makes me sad. But he took a coup de grace and he took he took everything and still kicked out. Whereas this was where wrestling sort of made sense. So once Kane takes 3 big moves, it's fine to let him go out. And Chris Jericho gets the pin, meaning that he has 2 eliminations on the night. So he's already, getting a head start on that one. He wouldn't have that for long.
Absolutely. Exactly, because as we know, he tries to get cocky. He's thinking the best man to eliminate is the world champion. And he knows, because of the power advantage, the weight, he has a slight advantage over HBK. And because he's younger, he's faster, he would have that mobility advantage where he would easily be. And also, Shawn Michaels only wrestled at this point once in 4 years. This is now his second match and it's his first main event. He plants the walls of Jericho on the champion. And like the brilliant man that he is, he's not even thinking of Shawn Michaels. He's just thinking of Triple H tapping out. Does it in the classic lion tamer position originally, and then he moves it into the Boston Crab, which I never liked. I preferred it when he put the knee into the spine. I always liked that version. That was proper Walls of Jericho for me. But because in that Boston Crab variation, he takes that super kick beautifully, right to the chops, and Shawn Michaels flat down with the cover eliminates Jericho, and then you've got 8.5 minutes of back and forth between the two that you actually wanted to see end it. Triple H versus HBK. Who's going to win it? Is Shawn Michaels going to take the title off Triple H, or as JR said on commentary, rightfully so, is he going to deserve to be called world champion by winning this? And at the time, they also highlighted Triple H's record at Survivor Series was absolutely awful, whereas Shawn Michaels was slightly better. I think it was a 5-1 Survivor Series, something like that. He had a much better record. 8.5 minutes, super kick out by Triple H, pedigree kick out, the scoop slam.
We should say Shawn Michaels is absolutely bleeding a gusher.
Yeah, exactly.
More than Jericho and Triple H sort of opened him up with punches and slamming him into the cage and doing everything you think of just to try and get some colour on him, and they got it, and he was bust open hard way. So at this point, the blood's sort of drying up, but it's still coming at the same time. So you've got this really quite horrific visual of a guy who's been through an absolute war and the crowd willing him on. And as you say, the super kick, is that it? Kick out? No. Pedigree, is that it? Kick out? So no, we're going to keep going. These two are going to keep going back and forth. And, the crowd were caught up in it because they didn't know if they were actually getting their happy ending.
Absolutely. And we get the classic Shawn Michaels inverted atomic drop, the classic flying forearm, the scoop slam. And this is where everything changes for me. You're expecting Shawn Michaels to go to the top rope for the flying elbow. Classic Shawn Michaels signature offense before he goes for the super kick. No. He completely outdoes Rob Van Dam. He goes to the top of the pod and lands the elbow drop with perfection. Only for Triple H to kick out. I loved that moment where they still had him to kick out. The suspense is building. Triple H regains control briefly, hits a spine buster, kick out of that, goes for the pedigree. But at that time, shot in the middle of the ring, Shawn Michaels back body drop, runs forward, catches breath off the turnbuckle. Triple H turns up, final sweet chin music, and of course we get the infamous response that I've already shown tonight, but I'll do it one more time. A new world champion is crowned.
Just looks good, doesn't it? Just
Absolutely
looks good.
And the worst attire as well. That attire is minging, but it never actually got properly finished. Like it never.
Yeah,
like,
no, because it just said H.
Yeah, they didn't finish. They didn't finish as well. So they had to go out with that, and he's not wearing official wrestling boots as well. He's wearing his everyday working boots. So that's actually what he's wearing in the match. But he does it. He does it brilliant. Shawn Michaels could
I think
stand.
that added to it. You know, it was sort of the idea that this guy had been out the ring for so long. Can he still go?
Is he going to
Like
keep
that.
going?
You know, he's turned up in like not the proper gear. So again, it adds to that vibe of, you know, can he still go? Can he get the job done? And the crowd really sort of bought into it, of course. And yeah, the crowd really happy to see him on the night. The boyhood dream
It's still true.
true once again.
Absolutely. And another good thing about it as well is the this is Shawn Michaels 5-star. This is a 5-star Shawn Michaels performance. This is brilliant. But everybody apart from Rob Van Dam was at the highest level. I think Rob Van Dam was great. His performance dropped when he went for that one spot too many. And mind you, it's great for the fans to get to see it, but I think he went for the wrong move. I think he should have tried something different for the top rope. I think he should have tried an elbow drop himself. I don't think the 5-star would have saved him any grace because he has to rotate his legs at such a fast pace and he can't do it. He's like an archway shape. It looks like he's just shat himself, and he can't release the fart as well at the same time. Like he looks like he's done both.
Yeah, that, or he could have
just done a body splash.
Or he could have dragged Triple H.
Yeah, distance wise, give him a little bit more.
Yeah, could have dragged him further out.
Because we know he can do it.
That would have probably helped. Or,
but
you know, Booker T and RVD at this point, they're both baby faces. So even Booker T could have done it. You know, if he was up. Because then you'd have even more of that. RVD hits the move and then Booker T. I suppose they wouldn't want that to happen. Because that would be rather heelish of Booker T. But it was heelish anyway. He took advantage of an injury. So it was going to be a little heelish from Booker anyway.
Absolutely.
I just think there were a couple of things that could have been done. But as you say, I think other than that, everyone else was firing on all. Did what they were expected to do and played the part in the match that they really had to. So I think you take that botch out of it, it would be 5. You put that botch back in, I think 4.75 is absolutely fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm still, in all honesty, I'm still giving it the 5. I still think it was 5-star quality. Besides that botch, I still think it was. I think it had everything. It had drama. It had suspense. It had the champion at a disadvantage early, making him start the match instead of putting him in a pod like later champions would do. They'd get the advantage. They picked who came out right time. You start with the lighter guy. You end it with the lighter guy. You bring in the 2 stronger dudes in the middle. You have the balanced equation of a very good babyface in Rob Van Dam, who's just had a world title match at Unforgiven as well, who would then have a world title match against Shawn Michaels on Raw. Very good title matches he has there. He's doing well in the card. And you have the world champion who, with Ric Flair about to begin Evolution, they're just so great together. It's such a great duo, Ric Flair and Triple H. And you get into the match, and Triple H is working it really well, and he's taking every bump. He's taking the spots so well. He's selling at the right time, proving why, even though he is a bit of a goon, he's still one of the best world champions for a reason. Like even though he's next
the hockey stick though.
That's true. The next world title reign, unfortunately, is the one where he holds it for the longest reign, which Batista would match. But you see why that title reign that does come up after he beat Shawn Michaels at Armageddon, where he holds the title, funnily enough, until he holds it until Unforgiven, 10-month title reign, where he is hated for burying people when it should not have been that long. Still has some good matches in between, but this title reign was perfect, and it started well. It was just handed to him, and he proved it by beating Ric Flair. He then had the good match with RVD at Unforgiven. You don't have No Mercy because it was a SmackDown pay-per-view, and obviously that's the Hell in a Cell match with Taker and Brock Lesnar. How do Raw respond? The Elimination Chamber, Survivor Series, perfect. And then obviously that takes from there, and it ended really well with him losing to Shawn Michaels, and he regains it in the right way. 3 stages of hell, perfect reclaim match. But this for me gets a 5 for all those right reasons. could have been, and even crazy thing is this could have broken the 5-star spectrum.
Oh, really?
If that botch never happened.
Okay, I see. So it's a 5 for you, even with the botch. So it would have been above a 5 without it. Well,
I still think
turn up for the books, right? So that is what we thought was Series 2002. We have had we've had a look at all the matches, of course. Now, beforehand, we said that our general show rating we agreed at 3.75, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We agreed at that, yeah. And I think, I'm not going to go ahead and add them up, but I think it would about be that. You had a 5, 2 4s. I gave something a 0, so obviously that's going to harm.
They got a 1.5 by proxy.
Yeah, make it 1.5 by proxy. There was a 2-star match as well, and the 2.5 at the start. So I think you're around there. Maybe just at 4. We're around there. We haven't completely butchered it. Reece, I've saved my current butchering, this week's butchering, for something you told me. You said this to me in confidence, and I trusted you because you're my co-host, and I'm your co-host, and that's what we're meant to do. Co-host on co-host. You don't know about this, people. He doesn't know about this. Reece, I watched NXT last week. You'd been saying it's so good. It's doing really well. It's such a great show.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff's better than what happens on the main roster. Reece, that is the worst 2 hours of wrestling television I've seen this year. That was absolutely abysmal television. There was about the opening promo was good, and that was it. All the stars had vanished, and the rest of the card was Sol Ruka, Briggs and Jensen. I don't even know their names. Versus Gallus in a rules match, which was taken straight. If that was in the Impact Zone, I wouldn't be surprised. And just nonsense after nonsense, and stupid match after stupid match. And Joe Gacy beats Cameron Grimes with the dyad or the schism or whatever the heck they are, and Rip Fowler's still got his messed up eye, and Joe Gacy's not going to get over with anyone, and Cameron Grimes is just being absolutely brutalized in NXT by every single Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes around. And a guy gets a legitimate injury, so Wes Lee wins via stoppage. And I felt bad for Wes Lee, I will say that, because I thought that match was actually going okay. And then that was cut short, and the joy just sapped out of the room. But are you telling me that we once had on this show Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, Dakota Kai, so on and so forth, Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler, Kairi Sane? The list goes on. That's just for the women. And we are now looking at Sol Ruka, a suffer girl.
In my defense, I haven't watched this week's NXT. But
don't do it. Don't do it. I said live the following, that night, because I needed to see wrestling again. And
I said beforehand
it was my salvation, Reece. What have you done?
If anything, I said beforehand, the one before that was good. And it has been fairly good since they've actually put Shawn Michaels in charge. I haven't watched this one, but I can already tell it sounds crap.
Just so don't do it. Watch the opening promo, and that'll be you.
But I am, in my defense, I am saying before that, not this week. So if anything, you can blame this show, not mine, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, do that. It had me thinking, John Moxley was like watching prime Shawn Michaels. Later that night, when I was watching John Moxley, I was like, this guy's an actual star. Like, this is like The Rock's here compared to what I've just seen. John Moxley was like The Rock compared to what was on that show. And it's just, I'm looking forward to Halloween Havoc because I always like it. But if that's what we're being served, I really don't know. And the ladder match will be fun, and the triple threat will be fun. Come on.
It'll be better for Halloween Havoc.
Bleeding stars on it. The other thing, they're probably going to do an eye for an eye match, aren't they?
No, they won't.
They've been hinting at Grayson Waller and Apollo Crews' feud's been all about eyes. Because Apollo Crews is called The Vision. And it showed a thing in a vignette where Grayson Waller had like bloodshot red eyes.
If they do an eye for an eye match, then I won't watch Halloween Havoc.
It's giving me the fear of them going back to that and doing it again. I don't know why, because it's not like the first one was any good.
It was crap.
I hated it. But yeah, so that's what I thought of NXT.
Fair enough.
You told me it was good. You lied to me, Reece.
No, I told you it was good. I didn't anticipate this one being shit.
It was awful. Just save your time. I won't be watching it this week. So if it's just a case that if I don't watch it, it's good, that's fine. I don't want to see that again. They need to get some names. They need to get that roster looking like a roster. Because
they put Veer Mahan there permanently
right now. Oh, Veer Mahan! Oh, that's gonna sell all the tickets. So it is.
No, he's in a tag team now. R-Truth's going to NXT as well.
Woo, and indeed, who?
Yeah. Braun Breaker's all you need, though. That's all you need.
Braun Breaker's great, but he's going to lose the belt, and then he'll be gone, and then they'll need another main eventer.
Probably Dolph Ziggler.
They're not going to have one, because they just don't. And all these people they're using from this, what was it? N-I-N... The athletes thing.
Well. All right,
the athletes thing. NIL or something? I can't remember it.
Yeah,
but that thing that they're using means that you're not going to get more stars because you're not going to get established people, and that's fine. But then stop putting this on TV. Just put it back on the network. I can't think of people who are actually enjoying watching that. It's a bunch of nobodies with a couple of people from the NXT that you killed, a couple of other people from the new NXT that you also decided to kill. Now you've gone back to NXT to get some goodwill from the fans. It has to be better than that. You need more than that. Anyway.
It will get better. I'm confident of that. If it's had one bad week, it
can't get much worse.
It won't.
Come on now.
It won't.
Jeez, oh.
Anyway,
moving now through yourself to the full screen.
Yes.
Where we will begin the quiz.
Hopefully, Abu returns. Hopefully,
if not, Abu, as we're saying, hopefully you're all good, bud. Hopefully that's sorted. And anyone else tuning in as well, Billy, if you're still there, it's just
He's run away, coward.
It's time for the quiz. Right. So as ever, our quiz is about the show that was, but not really. Because I decided to make it about the participants in the main event that was.
Okay.
One question about each one, as ever. Information taken from a very reliable source.
Okay. Wikipedia. Okay.
Yes. You know it. Question 1. Chris Jericho's pay-per-view debut in WCW was at which show?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll go with the Great American Bash, 1997.
You've got the wrong year.
96.
It was 96. It was also not a Great American Bash.
Sold Out?
Nope.
It wasn't Starrcade.
This thing was called
Hog
Fall
Wild?
Brawl.
Oh, Fall Brawl. All right. So the that was towards the end of the year then, because Super Brawl was at the start of the year.
September.
Yeah, end of the year. Fall Brawl. Fair enough. Really? 4 bro? 96?
For extra little points, do you know who it was against?
I would have thought Juventud Guerrero because he was in feuds with him in Psychosis at the time.
His pay-per-view debut was against Chris Benoit.
Was it Benoit? Decent.
So you're 0 out of 1. Your form continues.
Cyclical.
That was a proper DiBiase laugh right there.
Yeah.
Right. As ever, anyone watching, especially on the replay, I know I'm just jumping straight into the answers as well, but we're trying to get to 2 hours. We're trying to just see how close to the 2-hour mark we can get. So question number 2. How many Elimination Chamber matches? This is 2 marks, I will say. How many Elimination Chamber matches has Kane been in, and how many eliminations has he gained? So how many Elimination Chamber matches has Kane been in? How many eliminations has he gained?
I think it's 2 chambers and 0 eliminations.
You happy with that?
I can only remember 2002 and 2006 because I'm trying to think 2000 and yeah, 2 chambers and 0 eliminations. That's all I can think of.
You're miles out. For Kane has been in 5 Elimination Chamber matches.
When has he been in that? I can't remember then.
Well, you got to think it's got to be in the terrible, woeful, awful, dreadful times where he was unmasked and just sort of.
Because I remember 06 for the unmask and then 2002 where he was masked, but I can't remember the other ones.
I'll just find them here. Here we go. Yeah. Come on. List them. Give me the years. Oh, just says 5. So that's handy. So I actually got this information off not Wikipedia, but the Sportster. And they're like more reputable than just Wikipedia. So if it's wrong, blame the Sportster.
Okay. But you never said how many eliminations.
You were wrong there too.
How many has he had? The guy doesn't eliminate anyone, he just causes destruction.
Only 2 eliminations.
Probably one of them is the Big Soul, probably.
Did they not do 1 year an IC title elimination chamber?
Aye, that's
Just
why
imagine Kane was probably thrown in, as I say, like mid-card rubbish, because that's what they treated him as.
Yeah.
Towards the end of his run, he was just mid-card rubbish and comedy fodder. And
I only remember 2 of interest because they were both for the 2 main world titles. And he had no eliminations. He just caused carnage in both.
Well, not to worry, Reece, because you can still finish positively.
In this case,
However,
probably not.
It's not looking good for you.
No, I'm being brutalised this week.
We could call this quiz Brentford. Anyway, on to a question about the man that you say, well, that we agreed, his botch sort of brought the main event down just a tad. RVD won the IC title at Mania X8, but who did he beat in the triple threat to become number 1 contender?
You mean the triple threat to actually qualify to go to Mania?
Mm-hmm. Number 1 contenders match. I've written a mean quiz this week, so I'll say that.
I'll say Christian and Eddie Guerrero.
Christian and Eddie Guerrero?
I've got no idea.
It's not right.
What do you expect? These aren't normal. These are horrible.
Yeah, this is a mean quiz. But again, you said you were coming back fighting, you know?
Different sort of fight. This
It's all
isn't
right. Hey, if you think about it, next week's Extreme Rules, so we're going to have all the extreme questions that you could ever want. But this has been a tough one, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Because I really don't know.
The men that he beat were Lance Storm and The Big Show.
Nobody's.
Big Show was WWF champion after Survivor Series 2002.
Aye, so was Bob Backlund in '94.
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true. Okay, Reece, I believe you can do it, okay? Ten Hag's come in, he's giving you the pep talk. Can you turn it round? Don't zero the quiz, please.
Well, there's 3 guys left, I think.
There's a possibility of 2 marks left to get.
Oh, because you've already asked me Kane, RVD, Chris Jericho, and now you've asked me Rob Van Dam. Yeah, never mind. 2 to go. God, I want to run.
So, chance to get 2 out of 5 in terms of the questions. In terms of we'll call it by the questions. I'm going to try and make this look as nice as possible. Can you get 2 out of 5? Okay. How many times has he been inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame?
Booker T.
Yes.
Twice?
Yes, twice. He was inducted once in 2013 as himself, and then once in 2019 as one half of Harlem Heat.
With
I
his
did have
actual
another question written for Booker T, and I'll be honest, I was gauging it based on how the other questions went.
I still think you should ask it since your quiz has been brutal this week.
Yeah, the other question for Booker T was, Booker T is a WCW and WWF Triple Crown champion. How many of these were there? You don't have to name them. Abu, you have missed Reece having an absolute nightmare of a quiz.
This has not been the fairest quiz of all. This has been the worst.
1 for 4. It's probably the hardest quiz I've written, but this is what's going to happen, 22 years old now, I'm bitter and twisted now. So I have put this very mean quiz together. So Abu, you can either wind it back or I will quickly run through some questions if you want to put your answers in the comments. So, Chris Jericho, his pay-per-view debut for WCW was at which show? That was question 1. Question 2, how many Elimination Chamber matches has Kane been in and how many eliminations has he had? Question 3, RVD won the IC title at Mania X8, but who did he beat in the triple threat to become #1 contender? Question 4, how many times has Booker T been inducted into the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame? The question I was about to hit Reece with, or I just did hit Reece with, I was going to ask one or the other based on how the quiz was going to try and save face for him. But we have here, Booker T was a WCW and WWF Triple Crown champion. But how many of those have there been?
So that's how many people have actually won the... Because it's 3 titles to be a Triple Crown winner, isn't it?
Yes. So they won the Triple Crown in both companies.
So
and I'm not asking you to name them, but just how many have there been?
So in WCW, it was the World Champion, the Tag Team Champion, and the United States Champion.
Mm-hmm.
And then WWE, it could either be the WWE or World Champion, Tag Team Champion, and United States or Intercontinental title. Just depends on what brand you're on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they were interchangeable. A bull in there with the answer to question 1.
If he is correct for any of them, just fire. Whilst I'm thinking, fire ahead and tell him if he is correct. Like by all means.
Abu, you're right on question 1. Chris Jericho did debut at Fall Brawl 96. So question 2 for you, Abu, while you're catching up. How many Elimination Chamber matches has Kane been in, and how many eliminations has he earned?
I think for WWE, this might sound a bit mad for numbers, but I'm going to go for it.
So it's people who have won both.
So
it's not how many of each individual. It's how many people did the Triple Crown there and there. I told you Booker T is one of them. But how many are there?
Booker T, Ric Flair, Kevin Nash / Diesel. I think he did the Triple Crown because he was WWE's Triple Crown. He done it within a year in 93, 94.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was US champion. That's the problem. I don't think he was US champion, so I might have to rule him out.
Remember, you just need a number. So you don't need to know, and you can always just assume there's more than you can think. You know, you only said Kane had been in. Well, I won't say because I might still be answering, but you underestimated that, so bear underestimation in mind.
Steve Austin was close, but he was never world champion in WCW when he should have been. So he's denied Triple Crown because he was tag team IC and WWE champion.
So you're right on how many appearances Kane has, but he has admitted that he doesn't know how many eliminations Kane has got. For your information, Bill, it's just 2. Just 2 in those 5 appearances. So in other words, he sucks.
I don't think it's a lot to do both in the time because that's longevity there and back.
Yeah, and you have to do it before WCW dies. So
yeah, I'm gonna say 4. I think 4. I don't think there's a lot. I'd be surprised if there's more than that, but I don't think there's that many because you look at the big guys like Hogan was never tag team champion. He was never IC, European, US.
Yeah.
None of that. He was only the world champion in WCW and WWE.
So the third question of Bull has the possibility of being the meanest question I've ever asked. Because it was RVD won the title at Mania X8, but who did he beat in a triple threat to become the number 1 contender for that?
Did he get
it? You just asked me what was the third question.
All right. But yeah, to answer the Triple Crown question, just because it is complicated, I'm just going to go with 4 by proxy. I'm not underestimating or overestimating. I'm just thinking purely timing and booking.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
We'll move you on to the last question because the Bill will then do the Booker T questions. And he's like on a delay, but I think we've gathered he's probably going to beat you, but we'll find out. He might not. Jeez, Brentford indeed. So the last question is, who has main evented WrestleMania more times? Is it Triple H or is it Shawn Michaels? So that's the last question, Reece. That is counting them up. Question 5 I've got here, but I think I asked 2 for Booker T's. Question 6.
So between HBK and Triple H, who had more WrestleMania main events?
Yes. So Abdullah said Edge and Rey Mysterio in that triple threat. It is the meanest question I've ever asked Abdul. The answer is Lance Storm and the Big Show. It's just funny to think of Big Show going for a mid-card title. It's really quite odd, especially.
I'm just going for each
on this show.
I'm just going for each one off the top of my head, one by one. So, Shawn Michaels' first WrestleMania main event was WrestleMania 11. He won the Royal Rumble against Diesel and lost. And he also lost Pamela Anderson to Kevin Nash as well.
And I'll say to Bill here. So, the next question for you, catching up, mate, is in Sorry, no, change that one. How many times has Booker T been inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame? And the other Booker T question was, he is a WCW and WWF Triple Crown champion, but how many of those were there? Or are there? Were, because you can't do it anymore, but are.
Yeah.
So I'm just going through. So as in people who won both Triple Crowns. So did it in WCW, did it in WWF, or the other way around. But they have to have both. So those are two questions about Booker T. And you, Reece, were going through. He's grabbed paper.
I'm writing.
Grabbed the paper.
I am physically writing these down because I think I may get lost in transition, and I know for a fact I reckon I can get this one. I reckon I can.
He reckons he can get it. So
I reckon I can get them all. So I'm going to split them up. So HBK. And the good thing is, he won't know what I'm writing either. Abel, so if anything, I've got this. And
Abel's
it takes
become your next opposition. So after the Brighton last week, this very much is the Brentford now. So I really should stop kicking you United fans while you're down. But yeah, so Abel, if you just want to get your answer in the comments, buddy, we will see what you say. So those questions for you again, Abel, were how many times was Booker T inducted into WWF/E Hall of Fame, and how many Triple Crowns? His answer is in. You two are going to be very frustrated because you're one off on the WWF, WCW Triple Crowns, but either side.
Oh,
so Abel said 6.
I said 4.
4. There are 5.
Really? Who?
Yeah, there are 5. I will find that out.
Sweet.
As I say, I get these facts, but I don't have the whole facts there. This is how I write meaner quizzes than usual.
Can I just ask you one thing here? Are you see if it's in because Raw and SmackDown had a main event? They used to have a main event. Are you saying if it was like Shawn Michaels was the very last match on the card, or just the main event of that show?
Very last match.
That's fine. That's fine.
Closing the show. Main event of WrestleMania. Not show main event of WrestleMania.
That is perfect. That helps me a lot.
And so for you, about you're on to the last question, bud. Who has had more Mania main events? HBK or Shawn Michaels? Sorry, HBK or Triple H? Not him or him. Triple H or Shawn Michaels? HBK or HHH? And Abul's got his answer in. So, Reece, I will wait for you to give your answer. For this, I don't even necessarily need the numbers, though it may be a tiebreaker if one is needed.
I actually think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's actually a tie. Because I've got... One of them doesn't have more. Not what I've got in my head, because I'm literally going through main events. I've got it. Sorry, I've actually got it. I am guessing, I think it goes in the favour of 7-6 for Triple H, because I have written down WrestleMania 11, WrestleMania 12, WrestleMania 14, no WrestleManias for Shawn Michaels until WrestleMania 20 main event, although he did wrestle WrestleMania 19, but that wasn't main event. It was a triple threat match main event. He then didn't wrestle a main event until 23 and lost to Cena. And then I'm going for I think WrestleMania 26 against The Undertaker was... I think that was I don't know if that was the main event. I know, like, either way, because WrestleMania 25, he was the semi-main Triple H main event. So I've got WrestleMania 2000, WrestleMania 18, WrestleMania 20. It's actually 8 because there's WrestleMania 21, WrestleMania 22, WrestleMania 24, WrestleMania 25, and WrestleMania 32. So yeah, I'm going 8 for Triple H in favour of Shawn Michaels 6.
Right. Okay. We both said Triple H. Abu has it Triple H 5 and Shawn Michaels 4.
I have 8-6 purely based on last card matches.
The answer is 7-5.
So
but I wasn't looking for the numbers. I was looking for who has more. You said Triple H. Abu said Triple H, and it is Triple H.
Yeah, 100%. Because of the fact that Shawn Michaels' legitimate injury as well.
Yeah, not to mention, of course, the early retirement as well. But it is quite a bit closer considering the sort of longevity of Triple H's career. But you know, you then look at things like opening the show at WrestleMania 30. So the results, Reece, don't look that pretty for you. The numbers don't lie.
Still got 3 points. I'm taking it.
And they spell disaster for you at Sacrifice.
I'm not taking a jet.
References. So add up your points in the questions. It's
below
great.
I'm just not giving you.
It's a 2 out of 6.
No, a 3 because you're giving me the Booker T one.
Aye, that's with the Booker T one.
Oh yeah, because it was 5, wasn't it? Yeah, 2. Aye, okay. That's because you gave me a quiz I was never going to walk in and anticipate. That was horrible.
That was so mean. And Abu, to be fair, Abu got 3, maybe 3.5, because he got the appearances for Kane, but didn't get the eliminations. Yeah. So Abu takes the win. And yeah, the viewers said, you know, Billy said, keep the quizzes cruel. And then Billy vanished.
Yeah. Punk.
So I've kept the quiz cruel, but next week it'll be an Extreme Rules quiz.
Yes.
To cap off our Extreme Rules preview. So, Reece, you can come out of full screen now.
I am now, yeah.
2nd of October 2022. Let's just forget your quiz score of 2 on 2 of the 10 of 2022.
And on that bombshell, it is definitely time to end. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. It's been another great show. We really do appreciate it. And Abu is going straight in there. V-trigger.
Hopefully Bill and Billy are around so that we can have some real quiz heavyweights battle next week. But if not, we can always make do with the resident know-it-all, Reece, right here.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll certainly see how more it goes for the Carnage. But other than that, cheers, Abu. It's been a great one, guys. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Follow this Weekly Armchair on Twitter, Sports Armchair _. And if you do wish to get involved in any more of our live videos, please get involved. It's more appreciated. We do love the interaction with our live chat. But in the meantime, it's been a good quiz. It's been a good show. This has been the 3rd and final of our Survivor Series reviews. We are back to normal next week. And when we say normal, we mean Saturday. Bye, guys.
Extreme
Rules.